What's up guys, TechFlash here, and today we are going to discuss two technologies for smartphone cameras which are going to change the future of smartphones. And when I say future of smartphones, I mean it, because these two technologies are going to be the trendsetter for upcoming years. We have seen that right now every single smartphone manufacturer is following a trend, whether it be the notch trend, whether it be the pop-up trend, or whether it be the 48 megapixel rear camera trend. And today we are going to discuss two technologies which I believe are going to be the trend for upcoming years now. Now the first technology which we are going to discuss today is going to be about the front camera on cell phones. And this technology essentially hides your front camera inside the display of a smartphone. So you get a slab of a glass and the phone looks quite clean on the front side and there are no motors involved. Now this is a feat which we were expecting from Apple. In fact, everyone was thinking that Apple will be the first company to produce this kind of technology. And I'm talking about past when iPhone 4 and 5 were launched. If you Google that time around, the concept for iPhones was essentially a glass slab. However, in reality, the companies which are actually fulfilling this dream are going to be Chinese. Basically, Oppo, the leading Chinese manufacturer, which also owns OnePlus from very specific reasons, is unveiling this camera technology, which essentially hides your camera inside the display. And they launched a campaign on their social media with multiple teasers showing off a phone with the camera integrated inside the display. Now the interesting part was that when the display was in use, the camera was not showing up and the pixels on top of the camera were actually displaying just like a normal display. But when they turned on the camera, the display went off at that particular point and we could easily see the camera. They also took some pictures, however the quality of those pictures was quite bad actually. The colors were off. However, this is a technology which is under development, so we can expect that after some time Oppo can correct themselves. Now we were thinking that Oppo will be the only manufacturer to ship out this technology, but we were wrong, because on the same day Oppo launched their trailer, we saw another trailer from another Chinese brand called Xiaomi, and they also showed off a technology where the camera was inside the display of smartphone. And I believe that the video from Xiaomi was much more convincing, as the camera was completely hidden in that video, and the video result, the actual camera result on that particular instance was much better than what we saw with Oppo. Also, in case of Xiaomi was quick enough to show us how they are achieving this feat, and they explained that their technology includes a display which goes completely transparent when the camera is in use, and it goes on when you turn off the camera. So it is quite simple when you explain it this way, but in terms of actual engineering, this is a great feat. Now we have seen punch hole cameras from Samsung and Huawei. However, these instances usually include a display which has been cut off at certain places and the camera is put into that particular location. But in case of Xiaomi and Oppo, they are not cutting the display. You get a full view display and the display is actually completely functional. However, when you need it, it goes off. Now the second technology which I wanted to discuss is actually for the rear camera of the cell phones, and I believe this is going to be a major marketing stunt for many companies out there, and this is 64 megapixel rear camera. We saw that many companies were bragging about their 48 megapixel rear camera last year. We saw Oppo launch different devices. We saw Xiaomi brag about it in their Redmi Note 7 Pro. So many phones were launched with the 48 megapixel camera, and I believe that this time around the camera which we are going to see on cell phones is going to be a 64 megapixel sensor. Now the interesting part is that the sensor is actually made by Samsung. However, it is expected that Chinese manufacturers will be the first ones to launch this sensor in their cell phones. I don't know what is the reason behind Samsung being on the back foot in innovation. Like, they are developing the technology, but they are allowing Chinese manufacturers to use that technology and develop new phones. I think that Samsung wants to be the supplier more than they want to be the manufacturer of smartphones. However, the sensor we are talking about is a Samsung made 64 megapixel GW1 sensor, And the interesting part is, unlike the Samsung GM1, which essentially gave out 12 megapixel images, this camera is capable of giving out full 64 megapixel images. In fact, we were expecting this camera to first ship with a Xiaomi device because a code was leaked and found by XDA developers, but right now we believe that the first camera phone with 64 megapixel of sensor is going to be from a Chinese manufacturer, Realme, which is actually a child company from Oppo. And this 64 megapixel camera is supposedly giving out such great results that it kind of matches what you get with a DSLR. And the CEO of Realme India actually posted an image on his Twitter showing off the camera, and the image looks quite impossible for a smartphone. Also, an interesting thing about this camera sensor is in low light. When the low light strikes, this camera essentially converts itself into a 16 megapixel snapper and converts all the pixels into a group of 4 and makes a single pixel out of them, so that more light can be extracted from every single pixel. That means if you are using it in low light, it will give you a better low light performance, and if you are using it in daylight, you are going to get full 64 megapixels of resolution, so you can zoom in the image quite a bit. Now, I'm someone who believes that only hardware can achieve nothing, and I believe that with Google Pixel, Google proved it, because on the paper, Pixel devices were not the greatest, but when they came out in public, their camera result was by far the best result we saw in any camera smartphone. Now, I'm personally interested in the 64 megapixel camera sensor more than I am interested in the in-display camera technology. And the biggest reason behind that is that in-display camera technology is only for the aesthetics, while this camera technology for the rear camera actually increases the quality of smartphone photography, which I am quite into, because I believe that even if my phone is not looking the best phone out there, it should perform like a best phone. So that is something that I'm into. I believe in performance instead of aesthetics, but I want to know what are your thoughts about the cell phones, and whether you consider design over functionality, or whether the functionality is the basic thing that you want from a cell phone. So do let me know in the comment section below. And if you like the video, do give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more content, and I will see you in the next one.